Hello Mercenary Commander and welcome to the Leopard Dropship Flight School, where we're going to show you how to fly your newly bought Leopard Dropship into battle, drop off your mechs, your lance of mechs by a combat drop, land and retrieve them and then take off. So, first thing to say about this is you've really got to have a map that's suitable. I'd recommend a map that's free map sheets by 3 or 4 by 4. I've picked a quite nice big map here, and Aerodyne dropships like the Leopard aren't like in the HBS game. They can't land and take off with VTOL. They need to land like space planes, which is what they are. They land like a normal plane and take off by a plane, and they'll need a runway that's like 20 hexes long with no interruptions, and ideally on a pavement surface. So you can't really just use them on any other map unless of course you're just going to fly on, drop your troops and fly off again, which is something you can do. So let's load up our Leopard. We go for a good old classic 30-25 style Leopard, not the CV. The CV is the one that carries the aerospace fighters. And we're going to have a lance of mechs. Let's go for a marauder. A wasp. Rifleman, and how about a Wolverine? So here's our lance of mechs. So we're going to load them onto the Leopard, which can carry 4 mechs. Now, as it's a Leopard, it's got the ability to drop all of these in one go. There we go, we've loaded it up. And I'm going to look at the options for the Leopard and deployment. Now, starting velocity, you can start it at 0, but you will need to gain some velocity as you're going on. So it's okay to start at 0, and you've got the starting altitude. We're going to select 3. Like I talked about in the previous video, 3 is the ideal altitude to combat drop from. So I'm going to click on 3. And we're going to use this as an opportunity just to show you how to fly aerospace as well. I'm not going to go into the whole thing about attacking ground targets or strafing, but you can see how you can fly this Leopard dropship. We can deploy anywhere. And so here we are. I've got my mini map here. Just going to make it a bit smaller. There we go. And you can see we've got an airfield here. So I'm just going to deploy it, and we're going to drop our troops at the airfield. And then we are going to circle around. So let's deploy here. And you can see when we deploy it, it deploys just as 1 hex because it's airborne. It's got an altitude of 3, which remember, altitude does not mean level. So it can fly over anything. It doesn't matter if it's level 4 because altitude 1 is above everything that's on the map. Theoretically, it's a nape of Earth flying 1 to 50 meters. So I'm going to deploy there. So we're into the movement phase, and we've got to make sure that we give some thrust, because every turn you're in atmosphere you lose 2 velocity, and we're at velocity 0, so we have to hit accelerate twice. And that costs us thrust points. We can actually accelerate much further than that. But what happens in a normal aerospace game is you would have an aerospace map, and 1 hex would be 1 whole board in Battletech. In this, it's converted in MegaMek so that you've got your movement on the standard map, which means you can actually move 1 thrust point will move you 16 hexes. So 2 thrust points will give us 32 hexes worth of movement, which is an awful lot of movement, and you can move around maps very quickly. One thing they've implemented to make it easier is if you fly off a map, they allow you to turn around automatically and fly back again. But what's better is to play on these bigger maps, and that way you can fly around. So our job is we're going to aim at this hex here, and we're going to move to there, and we're going to drop. You can see we've got the red number here. We've got 32 frost points, and we've got 7, 8, 9 used up so far out of 32 movement points there, which is 2 times 16. So now I've done that, I'm going to drop combat drops. I've got drop troops, and I've got 1 bay, so I can click them all, and we're going to drop them. And then we're going to carry on flying. Up to 25, and give it a bit of a turn. And it'll go grey when you can't move anymore. There you go. So I've got up to my maximum of 32. I'm going to hit move. Dropped 4 units. And you can see there's a nice contrail path of my leopard as it zooms along. And that's quite useful because they move so fast you lose track of where they are. So I can see where he's gone now. There he is. So you can see the nice contrail there, and you can see he's dropped off the units here, and they've dropped. We dropped them on this square, and they've dropped behind and to the side there. They always drop 1 hex away from the centre at the point where you drop them from. So now we've dropped them, we're going to circle around and pick them up. So in the movement this time, instead of hitting accelerate twice to gain movement point, I'm instead going to lower my altitude. Every time you lower your altitude by 1, it gives you 1 extra point in velocity without spending any fuel. So if I hit go down, that will actually give me enough fuel to enough movement points to actually move 32 movement without hitting accelerate. We're going to start coming towards, and you can't always turn, so you can see here it doesn't allow you to turn straight away. So in this case I had to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hexes before I could turn. And I want to aim to be on the edge of my runway here. So that's perfect. There we go. So I've perfectly lined it up. And that way I've sacrificed 2 levels and I've gone down to level 1. Now we have to be at level 1 when we land. That's really important. And the other thing we have to do is we have to make sure these mechs are out of the way. So I'm going to click on move. Now these mechs now have landed. Oh, the wasp's fallen over. He didn't nail his landing. Okay, and the marauder scattered way over the place. So some interesting little problems there for movement. So if we go to the round report, you can actually see what happened here. So that was not the perfect textbook combat drop there. So marauder needed 5, rolls 3, lands off target, misses drop zone by 8 hexes. Okay, and then lands here and then falls effectively 2 levels. So taking quite a bit of damage there. Whereas the rifleman nailed his landing, the Wolverine nailed his landing, the Wasp rolled a 4 and missed the drop zone by 2 hexes. I'm not sure in this implementation of MegaMek how far it scatters the people when you miss. It must be like 1d6 per margin of failure. So Because I dropped them from high altitude 3, it meant they hit the ground the following turn. Now before they all get run over, let's move them out of the way. So let's get this marauder up. There we go. Let's move this wasp out of the way before he gets run over. One can stay there. And this Wolverine needs to move out of the way. So now I'm over the runway. I've got an altitude 1. I don't need to do anything else now except for hit land. And it's not VLAN, because VLAN is only if you've got a spheroid dropship. And unfortunately, as I said, in this in MegaMek and in Total War and in Battletech in general, Leopards don't do vertical takeoff and landing. Bad people HBS Battletech because they have to land like planes. So are you sure you want to land? It'll end your movement. Yes. And when you click yes, it will make a landing roll and then it will move it 17 hexes along, or it might be 20 hexes long, and land. There we go. I failed the landing. Took 10 damage. He bumped. And he's ended up there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to taxi along a bit and turn around. So before we do that, we're going to actually load. Let's taxi him along a bit. There we go. You can only move 2 along when you're taxiing. And then we're going to move our mechs to reload on. And they have to actually walk in, so if they're in 1 hex adjacent, they can just click on mount and just walk into the mech bays. So you can mount on Wolverine. Can't mount from where he is, but if he goes to there, he might have to walk around the other side actually. Is he going to have to walk around the other side? Oh, it does allow him to mount, there we go. It's being picky. If I click there, I can click on mount. I'm going to taxi it forward a bit more. This map's got these nice markings on here just to help indicate exactly where the safe takeoff area is. Now we'll start turning around. Now we'll just move our marauder up and mount on. So now all the mechs are mounted up, we are ready to go. Now we're on the runway, we've got 20 hexes of uninterrupted space, so hopefully we should be able to take off. And this can be a bit picky sometimes. It's not allowing us to take off because I think we've got this area of level 1 here, so I'm just going to maneuver it into the middle of the runway. And now we can take off. There we go. So we get that message. Okay, are you sure you want to lift off? This will end your movement. And that means that we've got 20 hexes of uninterrupted space before we take off. So it's a bit picky about how it lets you take off. You've really got to have a map that's got to have this at least 3 wide area with flat area around it to allow you to take off. So I'm going to click yes, and when we click yes, it will launch us to altitude 1, and also it burns all of the area behind as well. So it goes out to 6 hexes behind in a cone shape, like something out of Thunderbirds, Thunderbird 2 taking off from Tracy Island. And there we go, we're now back at altitude. And if you wanted to just drop mechs and then leave, you can basically just use the flee option again. So again, I'm just going to use accelerate by 1. And it won't let me land here, so if I try to click on land, it will tell me, it would basically ditch in the water, it wouldn't let me do that. So we're going to accelerate by 1, and we're going to fly to the edge of the map. And then next turn we can just choose the flee option. It's a bit weird, I've always in MegaMek that you can't just fly off the map, you have to get to the edge and then click the flee. And there we go. So showing there how to use a dropship just to drop forces onto the battlefield, and then how to fly the Leopard, how to land the Leopard, how to reload the mechs, and then how to take off. Happy flying, and let's hope you make those piloting rolls when you come into land.